Hey, everybody. Welcome to, I guess we could call this a halftime show, right? We could say that. We have two musicians here, but there won't be any music. We hadn't planned for that. But we'll just roll with it. So this is sort of the halfway point of our first season, and due to some scheduling things that have popped up and all that kind of stuff, we weren't all three able to get together this morning. So we thought we'd back up for just a few moments and share with you some of the things that we're reading, or some of the things that we're listening to, or watching, or that are taking up root in our life, and some of the books that we absolutely love. So I'm here today. Of course, me and Robbie are here. Jeff is at a poetry slam for his daughter at their school, and so
today we will take multiple shots to slam him in the podcast for not being here. So
yes, especially, and we even have it on video. We might have to back it up and just show it, and I, of course, through the magic of editing, I can just screen cap it and pop it in here.
We just play the sound clip every time it's his turn to share.
That's right. You'll know what it is here in just a moment. But we want to share with you, and I guess probably one of the best places to start would be some of the things that we're reading. We get asked all the time, what kind of books do you read? All of this kind of stuff. One of the ones that we just mentioned a few minutes ago before we came on the air, we get asked all the time, what version of the Bible do we preach from, or do we study from, or anything like that? And I'll just go ahead and start that off. I have been for many years, the Christian Standard Bible is what I've preached through. I have a lot of reasons for that. The CSB, I think, is probably one of the most scholarly texts that there are, but it's also written in a way that it's easy for everyone to read and understand. And being a musician, I know for me, probably one of the greatest things about it is when I read through the Psalms, I read through the Proverbs, it still has that poetic feel to it. And so that's something that I've just enjoyed for years and years and years as I've read the CSB. Now, Robbie, I know that you use the CSB some as well, but what other translations of the Bible are you using?
Well, I have a lot of different versions behind me. I've got the Jewish texts. I got the Torah. I've got the Y'all version. I don't know if you've read the Y'all version. It is I have not. Is a real version.
Is that from Alabama? The Y'all version?
No, it is a legitimate translation that replaces the word anytime it's using. Sometimes Jesus says things and he's addressing everybody, but it sounds like he's addressing an individual. So they went go back in, and Jesus is like, "Y'all need to listen to this." I'm not even kidding you.
You've got to be kidding me.
There is a Y'all version. There's a New Testament and an Old Testament, so it comes in two different things. So I have it because it really is.
Okay. So let me tell you how dumb I feel, because I actually thought that I didn't hear the L's. I thought you said the Yah version, like Yahweh or some, work off of that or something like that.
No way. This is the Y'all version. This is the most Southern Bible, but the translation actually works. But for what
Did Eugene Peterson have anything to do with that?
Man, the Message Bible can't touch the Y'all version. I'm telling you, it just speaks right to my Southern heart. That would be funny if that verse was in there. Bless your heart. But on a serious note, I keep three Bibles, three different translations on my desk because it depends on what I'm doing. Just for daily reading, I'm an NLT guy. For study, I'm an ESV guy. I think the ESV is the best word for word translation that there is. And CSB is right in that mix. So I have an ESV on my desk, an NLT on my desk, and I have the CSB on my desk. Now, when I'm preaching, if I'm preaching text, where let's just say the book of Romans, if I'm preaching through the book of Romans, I know you guys are, I'm probably going to use the ESV because of the word for word. But if I'm teaching like I'm teaching right now through through John and Luke, I'm using NLT, CSB. So I'm going back and forth depending on how it's worded. I would really probably go all in on the CSB. My holdup, this is going to be the craziest reason ever for a holdup of going all in, but my favorite Bible is the NLT right here. Look at all these ribbons.
Oh,
I
yes.
had this Bible custom done from a guy out of Louisiana.
I remember you telling me about this. Yeah.
This is the Word of God in actual lamb skin. It feels so good to touch. I mean, look at this.
Oh,
So flimsy. I sent my favorite NLT that I had to him. He wrapped it in this lamb skin, put all these extra little ribbons in it, even put these rib things in it. So it's really hard to move away from the NLT preaching when you have this.
when you have a Bible like that. Yeah.
And I do think it was expensive, but it's my life. So
Worth it. Yeah.
And I tell people too, like if you want a custom Bible, this is not a plug. We do not get sponsored, but hey, if you hear this and want to sponsor us, we're good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Scriptura Bibles out of Greenville. They used to be in Tennessee and they moved to all locations. But they do custom Bibles. I've actually gifted some to some elders. When elders come on, I gift them a custom leather Bible. But they do custom work. So y'all should check them out because it's the most important book that you're going to have in your arsenal.
I would agree with that, and forgive us for not starting our book recommendations with the Bible. That just kind of figured that just kind of, that's
by the
a
way,
given.
I opted for the lambskin over the crocodile. They do wrap it in crocodile. It just didn't have the same symbolism as a.
Oh, the dumbest thing just came to my mind.
Maybe I should have the y'all version wrapped in
crocodile.
Now it would be. Yeah. Okay.
So when you said crocodile, I immediately went to Crocodile Dundee, and the line that went through my head was, "You call that a Bible? That's not a Bible." Oh,
This is why we plan these things out.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because when we're off the cuff like this, it's going to be bad.
So what I've taken
we thought
from
this was
this
going to be 15 or 20 minutes. This might end up being 3 hours, and I'm editing deep into the night trying to cut all this stuff out.
So I'm taking from this the CSB, ESV, NLT, and then seasoned with the Y'all Bible. That's
Bible.
That's what we're using, everybody.
I've got to get a copy of that Y'all Bible. That's pretty awesome. I like that. All right, so let's talk about some other books that we're taking part in, and maybe some things maybe that you're reading or that you have read that has shaped you as maybe not even as a pastor, but maybe even as a Christ follower, and maybe some things. I've got some recommendations too as a dad. We homeschooled for many years. Homeschooled both of our boys through high school. They graduated homeschool, and then. Yes, to answer the question, they did go to college. They are in college. They're doing very well in college, because I know that gets to be a question sometimes. And we homeschooled our daughter through about 5th grade until our circumstances in our home changed, and I was going to be the one who was going to be doing the actual homeschooling instead of my wife, and quickly realized, yeah, she needs to go to school somewhere. So, Robbie, let me say this. I know that there are 2 books that you and I agree on that have been heavily, heavily influential in us, not just in our pastoring and our teaching, but in our personal lives as well. And they were books that you recommended to me some years ago. One of them that you've recommended to me twice, given me 2 copies of, just did one not too long ago. It was right around Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was. We came to...
I always, if I read a book and it was good, I buy a second copy.
I got you.
Always.
I got you.
Now for this one...
Well, you had to buy 3 because you've given me 2 of them.
Well, for and I'll just go ahead and let the cat out of the bag, but for Dr. Greider's book, Starfish Movement.
Yep.
I own... That's weird. I think I got like 15 copies under my desk because I've probably have purchased 30, 40 of these books.
Yeah.
Over the last 6 years.
Fantastic book.
Dan Greider is a mentor of mine, and is I can't accountability pastor for our church. I met Dan about 6 years ago in a place of trying to figure out what church could look like from the book of Acts, and got a hold of his book. We met, we talked, part of his network. And the Starfish Movement has literally changed the way that I see discipleship and even the way that I pastor a church. So it's been hugely impactful, which is why I shared it with the people that I love most.
Oh, thank you. Now you make me feel terrible because I hadn't shared a book with you. You know what? That's wrong. I did share a book with you and asked you to read it. It was the one I wrote and haven't published yet.
It was good.
I'm still working on that. So, and I never got any feedback. I gave you feedback on yours.
I don't think it was good feedback because I hadn't received any royalties off that book. The quarter is coming up. I should be seeing something here soon.
If anybody ever wonders what our relationship is like between Robbie and Jeff and I, this is pretty much it. This is pretty much it. We just have a great time with each other. The other that you recommended to me that I love so much and has really had a deep impact on the way that I preach and the way that I study is The Forgotten Jesus by Robbie Gallaty.
And a great podcast to go with it.
Yep. I remember the day we were getting ready to do chapel at the school that we served at. And you came up to the table and just laid it on the table and said, I remember it so well. You just very plainly, very slowly looked at me and said, you have to read this. And I started that afternoon and started reading it. And I was blown away. There's a process for everybody who doesn't know. This book goes back and looks at the Jewish roots of Jesus and helps us to understand that every story that he told, every parable, there were Jewish elements to it that we have not, as everyday Christians here in America, not really experienced and not really talked about and not really studied. Now, if you've been to any kind of seminary or anything like that, there's a little foreign word that we of a class that we all have to take, and it's called hermeneutics. Yeah, I know, right? It's either that or Greek, and you shudder at both of them. I truly loved hermeneutics. It was a difficult class, but it really does teach you how to dive into the Bible and understand it more, and to really focus on probably one of the greatest things that I understood from a hermeneutics class and was reminded again by that book is that the Bible was written for us, but it wasn't written to us. And that's come up a lot in my preachings. We have gone through the book of Romans at our church here just recently to understand that there are things in the Bible that meant something to that Jewish culture that kind of gets lost in our culture these 2,000 years later, and it really, really, really has an impact on some of the things that you read and you just kind of take for granted.
I think like reading The Forgotten Jesus, if you never have had a chance to go to Israel, this is a good intro.
Yeah.
Yep. Just because it gives you good background. Like, for instance, I was reading it last night because I go, this is like not just a book for me. It's like a commentary.
Yeah.
But just one of the facts in here, Tony talks about how this book says, hey, this, and this, and this all line up from Old Testament, New Testament. But when you think of Nazareth, for instance, right, Jesus is, he was a Nazarene, but he wasn't born in Nazareth. He was born in Bethlehem. So how in the world did the prophecy say that he would be a Nazarene? But it also said he was going to be born in Bethlehem. What are the chances of that prophecy coming true, that he fulfilled both at the same time? And then I bet you didn't know that. You do because you've read the book. But everybody else, you probably don't know that Nazareth was less than 300 people. It was probably about 300 acres. And,
yeah.
To the point, like ancient maps did not even feature Nazareth. So that's why, can anything good come from Nazareth? It wasn't a shot at Jesus. It was nothing there. It's not even on the map. Matter of fact, it didn't even go by its original name, Nazareth, in the culture. It went by Shootville or Branchville. But then again, Jesus is the offshoot the shoot of Jesse, of David, so so fascinating stuff in the forgotten Jesus. And coming up on Easter, this would be a good one to read. So maybe you should read about that rooster and Peter, and I'll just leave that as is.
Yep. Led me to some other stuff too, and researching some of the things that were said. And I know it was one of the things that you had mentioned and talked about that it was strong on your heart when you first introduced the book to me. And it was something that I went in and researched and understood is just when Jesus says it only takes the faith of a mustard seed to move mountains. He says just in the understanding of that and Herod and just the way listen, research it, read it, go into it. It's awesome. I don't want to give it all away because I think when you sit down and read it and study it for yourself, it's going to be so incredibly eye opening. It's really, really good stuff. Really good stuff. So why don't you now, before we started recording this podcast, I wanted to make sure, just say, hey, Robbie, I want to make sure that we don't have the same books here and all of that. And, and so I gave him some of the books that I have here, and he wouldn't tell me his. And I want to know what. So, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
I can go first. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a little bit of rhyme or reason.
Okay.
So these are three books that have been impactful one way or another for me.
Okay.
But they're not as scholarly. I want to throw that out as what Tony's going to present. So he's going to look like a high priest. No. I'm just going to look like one of the Gentiles trying to get into
it just means I need more effort to get to where I need to be.
I don't know about that. So this first book is what turned me on to loving to read. It was the first book that I can remember reading. I fell in love with it, and I've always had a copy. And so this is going to come as a surprise, but S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders was the first book.
Yes.
That made me really want to read.
Okay.
It's a heroic story of friendship and belonging. We all need that.
Yes.
But
there you go.
I just remember being in middle school and our teachers handed us those copies of those books, and I hated to read. But S.E. Hinton had a way. And then I found out there was a movie with Tom Cruise, Stay Golden Pony Boy. So The Outsiders is definitely one of those books that has always been important because that's what got me into loving reading. And my teacher, I'm so thankful that that was an important year for me in school because the Outsiders was huge, and then we read Where the Red Fern Grows, and that was a sadder movie. Just spoiler alert, he shoots the dog. They didn't tell us that. All right, my second, I have a total of three.
Now I got to find a big thing to go across the screen that says spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. My second book of three, I like to read one autobiography every year. Like this year, right now, I'm probably going to read more than one this year. But right now, I'm reading John Criss, Delete This. It's a really good book.
Okay.
I've had some other, Stephen Curtis Chapman's autobiography. Mm-hmm. I love it. Mm-hmm. But this one, again, is going to shock you. But this was my favorite autobiography that I read. And it is Me, Myself, and Bob, the Phil Vischer story. It's the true story about dreams, God, and talking vegetables. But Phil Vischer,
I love it.
I got to meet.
We're going to get to a point later in the show where I felt like I was. Oh, this is so good. Okay, go ahead.
I had an opportunity to meet Phil Vischer in the earlier days of my ministry when he still owned VeggieTales.
Yep.
And just his. I don't know. It was very inspirational. It helped me. This book and meeting him combined helped me to dream. And I think the reason that I became more of a creative, like really got in touch with my creative side, was because of VeggieTales. I mean, VeggieTales is a huge part of my life growing up. And I know you're thinking the math doesn't math. You weren't a kid when VeggieTales were out. Yeah, but did you know VeggieTales, the reason that it took off was because of college kids? So there you go. And yes, I do like to talk to tomatoes.
I listen, I know just about every line of probably the first 30 VeggieTales that came out. Tapes that came out.
They were so good
because we bought them for our kids, and even to this day, somebody in the house, somewhere in a far off corner, can just start humming, "If you like to talk," and the rest of the house just bursts out in the theme song. Yeah, absolutely.
So
in fact, I used to joke that I got most of my theology from VeggieTales. So if something was a little off, you know why.
There you go. So those two probably have thrown you off so far, but those are the two.
Oh, I love it.
But if I had to pick one book that completely wrecked my world, helped me see faith differently, moved me differently, is going to be this one. And I don't even think it's in print anymore, but it's called Messy Spirituality by Mike Yaconelli.
Yeah.
What really turned me on to this book, I was at a youth pastors conference, youth specialties, the year after Mike Yaconelli died. Never got an opportunity to meet him. But I was so intrigued by his story when they were sharing his legacy and videos because he had just died that summer in a car accident. So I grabbed his book and I could not put it down. And I have read this book more than I've read any other book because so just a story, I was a college student, a ministry major, struggling with my faith because it just wasn't adding up. I did my untangling. We call it deconstruction, but Tony's term makes it better. I did an untangling because I felt like, why is it that I cannot seem to be like everybody else that is around me as a Christian who seem to have it all together? They pray and they know the verses. I got this guy over here reading in the Greek and Hebrew, and I can't even be consistent in my prayer life. I can't even be consistent wanting to read the Bible. I would go to bed every night asking Christ to save. Like as a ministry student, I would go to bed every single night asking Christ, please save me. Please do not let me die in my sleep and go to hell. That was my fear because I felt so distant. But then I walk into a systematic theology class and my professor, before he starts the class, says, I just got a word. I don't know who it's for, but if you're doubting and struggling with your faith, I just want to say you're in the right place. And that's what led me on my journey to get here. And this book right here, this book by itself helped me stay in the fight. And when people around me are like, there's a lot of grace, there's some truth, but there's a lot of grace. This book right here, my favorite quote, I quote it all the time. I've now just used it as mine. Yaconelli says, the most consistent thing about myself is my inconsistency. And Jesus is okay with that. So
that's awesome.
Those are my top three.
That's awesome. So I have to make a little bit of a confession here is that growing up, I wasn't a reader. I hated to read. I didn't enjoy it at all. And probably one of the things, well, I'll tell you, this is how much I hated to read. I had to do a book report in high school over Christmas break on Frankenstein. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to read the book. I'm going to watch the movie. And I watched like 5 different versions of the movie and turned in my book report and absolutely failed it, because what I failed to understand, if I'd have cracked the book open, I would have realized that the entire book is just letters, which was hilarious. So if you've ever watched the Frankenstein movie, you are missing so much by not reading the book, because the book is far more interesting. And so when I became a Christian, it was kind of like, yeah, I'm not really into this reading thing. But as I began to read the Bible, I was compelled by the stories of the people that I was hearing about. I was compelled by probably one of the best things that could have happened is when I became a Christian, I became a DC Talk fan. Yeah, being a musician. And I got my hands on a copy of the book, Jesus Freaks, and began to read all of these stories about people who had given their life for Christ, who had surrendered to Christ, and who had done amazing things because of the Holy Spirit and because of the movement of God. And so that was probably one of the things that got me started in reading. But, there are a few books that I have read that have really, 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 like, those books that really make you think, like you think, like what it's meant to be, but when somebody actually lays it out for you and puts it into a way that you can understand it, it completely wrecks your understanding. And probably one of the books that did that for me was R. Kent Hughes, Disciplines of a Godly Man. Loved this book. But I'm going to tell you, if you're going to pick up this book, and there's a version for women as well, Disciplines of a Godly Woman. If you're going to pick up that book and start reading it, get ready to be wrecked. This is not a fun. Oh yeah, that's right. It's going to agree with no. There is nothing that he writes in here that you're going to that you're going to be okay with, because he lays it all out. And it talks about, the discipline of your mind and the discipline of your devotion and the discipline of your worship and what it means to worship. And we'll get to that in a minute. But your perseverance and your walk, just everything about your leadership, how are you to conduct yourself in your walk with your church and what that means. That is a great book. And I have actually, after reading it, I have taught it as a small group twice, and you always have those. So as pastors, we always know that when you begin a new small group or you begin a Bible study or something like that, you'll have a bunch of people who will come, and then as the weeks go on, you'll have people that sort of fall out and things happen, and schedules change and all that, and your group is a little smaller by the time you get to the end than when you started. This book takes care of that process in the first week. Like it will eliminate the folks who are not ready to make that kind of.
So what I'm hearing is, if you got a small group you've been trying to get to split,
that's the way to do it.
It'll take care of itself.
That's the way to do it. I'm telling you. But it's a great book, and if you really, really, really want to deepen your walk with Christ, that's a great book to do, and it really is good. Now there are a lot of that I have, Robbie and I both have lived dual lives in ministry, or even triple lives in ministry.
Sometimes
I was a student pastor for 17 years. I was a music minister for probably 20 years and still do some of that and still lead worship in different roles. And then for the last 3 years, I've been a pastor, lead pastor. And so these next two books are ones that were very influential for me. Starfish Movement, absolutely. Forgotten Jesus, loved. But when it came to understanding what it meant to be a pastor, this book by Gary McIntosh, The 10 Key Roles of a Pastor, is just great. It talks about putting on the coach hat, the executive hat, the reporter hat, the speaker hat. I mean, a lot of people just think being a pastor is about stepping up and being a speaker. And, if you can... if you can tell a story or if you can speak well or something like that, then, you can be a pastor. No, that is not true. You might be a great storyteller. You might be a great evangelist, but to be a pastor is something different. And one of the things that really pushed me, there's two in here that really pushed me. One is the conductor hat. It's like being the head of a train station, and you have all of these moving parts that you have to put together. And he also points it to the music side of it too. If you're a conductor for an orchestra, you have all of these little parts that are literally doing all kinds of different things, but it comes together to be harmoniously perfect. And I love that part of it. But the other part of it was the student hat. And that you always maintain your role as a student. You're always learning, you're always growing, and that was probably one of the most beneficial things for me as I became a pastor. That's a more recent one I've read in the last couple of years that really had an effect on me. This one has done it for me for a while. This is Worship Matters by Bob Coughlin. And listen, if you're leading worship somewhere, I want to say if you have been put into a role in which you're leading worship, or you're called to sing or to play an instrument or something like that in your church, you've never had any kind of formal seminary training or music training or anything like that. This is not a music theory book. This is not not going to teach you how to read music. This is going to teach you what it means to lead worship and what true worship is really all about.
Yeah, not sing songs. That's a different.
Yeah, very, very different. Very different. I actually taught this a few years ago. Now, Robbie, you told me this was one of your college level courses. They did this book.
Seminary level courses.
Yeah, seminary level. My son is taking worship leadership at North Greenville University, and he's in this book.
Go Crusade.
But I actually took this book and taught it to middle schoolers. Who I was in charge of to lead worship at a Christian school. And man, it just changed the way that they looked at things. And it is really good. So I would definitely encourage that. And I would encourage you too, if you're a pastor, and you've never had anything to do with worship, or the worship side of things in your church, read that book, because you're gonna have a greater understanding of what that looks like for your worship leader and your worship team, what it should look like, and even some of the things that they're dealing with that maybe you don't see and you don't understand. So those are really good. Now, I want to give one more recommendation on books if I can. And this is not one book. This is a whole series of them. I brought just a few of them in here. But they're these fun little Christian Heroes Then and Now books. We actually read these to our kids as they were growing up. These are great missionary stories. I have several here. Brother Andrew was one of our favorites. George Mueller was one of our favorites. Adoniram Judson. It was one of our favorites. These two were incredible. We read about Jim Elliot and Nate Saint. And for those of you who may not know, those two gentlemen were part of a team that went into Central America to bring the gospel to the Warani tribe. And they had started making inroads. And then there's the story that the 5 missionaries were killed. The Warani tribe, whether they misunderstood or whatever the case may be, they killed all 5 of them. Beyond the Gates of Splendor, I think is a book about them, or is that the movie?
It's a movie.
That's the movie. Yeah. Tip of the Spear, I think, is another one. That may be about that. I can't remember. But anyway, these 2 books are about Rachel Saint and Elizabeth Elliot, who were their wives, who went back to that location, back to the Warani tribe, and continued the work of their husbands who had been murdered by these tribesmen, and they continued to share the gospel, and they got to see the fruit of the seeds that their husbands had planted, and get to lead much of the Warani tribe to faith in Jesus. And so, great books. But I very much encourage those types of missionary stories for parents and things like that. I think they're great. Like I say, we used to go outside and sit around the fire pit and just read these books, read chapters and chapters of these books each night to our kids, and it helped them to develop a love of reading as well. And so I think that was really good. Now, Jeff did supply us a list of some things that he enjoys, and we're going to get to a few of those here in just a minute. But here's some recommendations from Jeff, from his words himself, about the books that he reads.
I don't read.
And there you go. Jeff don't read. So yeah.
Readers are leaders, except for Jeff.
Yeah. No, he did tell us that he's back into reading the Day of War series, which is a fictional history. Would that be the? Best way to put it, I can't remember.
Dude, you're asking a guy who said his favorite book was about VeggieTales. So I have no idea what this series you're talking about.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, it's a story about David and his mighty warriors and all of that kind of stuff. It's new to me. I didn't know about it, and so definitely something that I'm going to need to look up and maybe read as well. Or I think Jeff said they have the audiobooks, so that might be
That's probably
helpful.
what he's doing. He's probably doing
Yeah, it is. All right. So I know there's a lot of books aren't just the only way that we take in some information and things like that. What about podcasts? Now I know you and I both are into podcasts, but where you were in the books, I think I'm about to expose myself in the podcast. So why don't you start this one as far as the podcast go?
Well, I mean, I've got a few. I pulled out my podcast so I could remember. But I mean, obviously, I know people wouldn't believe this, but we do listen to this podcast once it's done.
Yes.
We
do.
To it and we critique it. You don't get to critique it. We critique it on the inside.
Yeah. We're much harder on ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, we're much harder on ourselves than anybody else could be. I promise you.
But yeah, we definitely are listening to this podcast. I listen to a lot of preaching. 2819 Church with Philip Anthony is one that I listen to. Especially, I listen to more podcasts in the summers when I cut grass. That's my podcast. Yep. Gosh, man, let's see. I'm a huge fan of Church of 1122 in Jacksonville, Florida, with Pastor Joby Martin.
Okay,
I listen to him weekly. And his Deepen podcast. Joby is from my hometown of Dillon. Grew up in this place. Okay. Worked at the camp my dad ran.
Of you.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, man. That's how we do in Dillon. We fruitful and multiply. We multiply the whole world with goodness. But Joby grew up in Dillon and worked at the camp that my dad would eventually run, and the guy that was running it then was a pretty big influence in my life and other ones, and so Joby's had a pretty important role. Like he probably he doesn't know the role, but he's played a pretty big important role in even church and discipleship, and so I've really appreciated Joby. I listen to Robbie Gallaty, Long Hollow. That's my weekly sermon listen to, along with his Forgotten Jesus podcast. Carrie Newhoff in Leadership podcast.
Yeah.
If you haven't, this is Jeff's fault. If you haven't listened to the one, go to Carrie Newhoff. Maybe we can link it. When he interviews John Christ, you think you're going to laugh your head off, but you find yourself in tears. It is the most influential, best episode of a podcast I've listened to in the last year.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other some things?
Jeff actually sent that to us, and the night he texted to, I think he sent us the transcript or the link to the transcript. I sat down and read that transcript twice.
It's so good.
And again, I don't read that much, but I was so captivated. And then when I went back and listened to it, it hit me all over again. It's so very good. Yeah, that's definitely a recommendation. And we can we'll make a huge list in the description for all of these books and podcasts and all of this. Yep.
So I think my couple more. I love Pastor Ed Newton. I think he's out of San Antonio. Mm-hmm. I think he's Southern Baptist, tattooed up. It's my kind of guy.
Yep.
But I listen to his Why Not You podcast. It's really, really good. And man, Pro Church Tools with Brady Shearer on different stuff about church tech.
Oh, I love
branding.
That one.
Brady's
so
great.
I've watched a lot of his YouTube content.
Yes, he's really
that's where I got. So I didn't even know that there was a podcast. Okay,
yeah.
So if you're into church tech, I'd very much recommend that.
Preaching through podcast with Luke Simmons. He does stuff like here's preaching through stagnation. Here's preaching through long text. Just giving pastors a way to look through. And is there anything else? Flatirons Church. All right, so one non-Christian podcast that I listen to. I am big into. I don't want to say I'm big into it, but I love the Cup of Justice podcast.
Okay.
It's about crime, specifically a lot of crime in South Carolina that gets exposed. It was the whole.
Oh, we got to link that one. I don't know this one. Okay.
It was the whole Murdoch trials when it started.
Oh yeah.
It was known as the Murdoch Murders podcast, and then when the church that they were the ones that kind of exposed and got that out in the public. But it was.
Oh, so I do know this one. So they changed the name of it then.
Yeah, they changed the name after the trial because they started focusing on other. So it's intriguing. It's something just I listen to in the background sometimes. But yeah, a lot more podcast stuff than. Yeah, every once in a while I attempt. So every once in a while you might see a podcast that I've thrown out there just to see what happens. So
yeah.
I haven't.
That's interesting. Now I will say, Jeff recommended Practice Makes Parent with Rebecca St. James and Dr. Daniel Huerta. I have listened to that before. I highly recommend it. I think it's very good stuff.
And Rebecca St. James is Australian, so it's really easy to listen to.
Yeah.
Accent. Love
it. Yep. This is where I sort of venture off. So podcasting for me, for the most part, is sort of my door into the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. It's not really where I go, with some exceptions. I have listened to the Carey Nieuwhof. I'm definitely going to be listening to the Brady Shearer one. But I do listen to The Pour Over, which is a 3-time a week news podcast from a Christian perspective. And it's just, 15 minutes long, something like that. But they always take every news story and tie it back to a truth from the Bible. How we should look at things, and it very much keeps me grounded, because I have the tendency sometimes to, or have had the tendency sometimes to, just sort of blindly listen to one particular side of the issue, without really thinking about it. But I've kind of gotten myself out of that, and this has been one of the things that sort of helped keep me grounded in that, with some of the things that are going on in the world, and so really like that. I love to listen to The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe, who's the Dirty Jobs guy from years ago. Love him. Love his outlook. I come from a generation where, it was very much about hard work, and it didn't matter what was going on. You, as a man, you provided for your family. I just sort of key in on him, and I really like what the way he talks about things and the way he says things. Now, I do listen to Dr. Charles Stanley. I know Jeff had mentioned that he listens to Dr. Charles Stanley. I have a particular connection to Dr. Charles Stanley and listening to his preaching because I got saved at First Baptist Church Atlanta, Dr. Charles Stanley, and so that he's always been a very influential part of my life. Also, the pastor I had after him listened to preaching from Olive Baptist Church in Pensacola, Florida, Dr. Ted Traylor, who was a mentor to me for many, many years. And so I listened to his podcast. And then a gentleman that I met in Conway, South Carolina at the Coastal Evangelism Conference some years ago. He was from Indian Trail. He was preaching it. He wasn't from Indian Trail. He was preaching at the time at Indian Trail Baptist Church, and has now moved to Fairview Knox in Knoxville, just outside of Knoxville, Tennessee. But Dr. Jeff LeBorg, and he is a fireball. And I love to hear his passion for the gospel. If there's ever any time where I feel like I'm sort of down in, my like I feel like it's not getting through it, like I'm missing the fire, I'll just go listen to about 10 minutes of his last sermon, and man, he's so fired up for the gospel. But a story sort of similar to mine. I had turned to alcohol to try to cope with things in my life. He had been through drug addiction and things like that as well, and it just took the faithfulness of somebody to continue to talk to him. And I sort of had that same thing in my life. And yeah, just so I love to listen to Dr. Jeff LeBorg and have for many years. Now, I left my other podcast for the end because I too am a big Phil Vischer fan.
Yeah.
And so I listened to the Holy Post.
So I didn't know he had one.
Jatani.
I will now be listening to the Holy Post. Let's go ahead and.
So I don't. There are things that are mentioned in there sometimes that I don't necessarily agree with, or I don't necessarily hold to, or they may look at a particular issue in a way that is different from mine. But it always helps me to. I think it's always wise to understand multiple sides of a story, multiple sides of an issue, so that you understand what people are walking through in a particular moment.
100%.
And I think that's so important for us to do and not be so monolithic.
I have a lot of the books on my shelf are things I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Because it helps broaden my horizon on how am I gonna understand someone if I don't even know where they're coming from. So
I agree.
Yeah. So I think you're
100%. But the thing that I love the most about the Holy Post is that Phil Vischer sings the theme song, and I can hear Bob Tomato in my head anytime I want to, and he even does Jimmy and Jerry Gord at the end of the song.
Nice.
And so, oh yeah, it brings all of that back. So
our 15-minute podcast has turned into over
45 minutes.
But I feel like, and this is a throw, this is totally unscripted. Well, this whole thing has been totally unscripted.
Completely.
But I don't think that it would be fair for us to walk away from this podcast talking about favorite books, favorite podcast, when we're musicians. So I think it's fair to say, so I'm going to make it, the first one's going to be easy. So I've got two questions. The first one's easy.
Okay.
Favorite worship song right now? You only get one. You can't listen to anything else. What's the one worship song you listen to?
I Know a Name.
So good. So good.
So I knew that song, of course, because, Brandon Lake. But my son said, "Dad, you have to listen to the entire album." And he sent it. He's home for spring break, and he sent me the album, a link to the album, a couple of nights ago, and I have not been able to quit listening to it. It's literally my daughter was playing softball an hour and a half away yesterday, and I just listened to it over and over again the whole time. And just love that entire album. But I Know a Name is probably the worship song that I love most. I like Brandon Lake a lot, just because his music and his passion in his songwriting and his delivery of those worship songs, it really touches something inside of me. And let me say something here, because I think this might be important for us to understand. You don't have to agree with everything that a particular church does or that a particular worship leader does to appreciate their music and to appreciate the song. Now, if the songwriting if the lyrics are unbiblical, if the lyrics are heretical, yeah, stay away from it, obviously. But listen, coming from two musicians, and Robbie, I don't think you and I have ever talked about this, but I have a feeling that I'm right on this, and I'm going to hit the nail on the head. A song can mean something to somebody, like the person who wrote it, the person who sang it, but then it can come over the airwaves or through streaming service to me, and I hear it a different way, and it means something to me, and it can draw me closer to my God because of the lyrics, the musicianship, whatever the case may be. It can mean something to me as well. And so, we've been through the whole argument with, different. I'm not going to name names, but you could name them. Okay, but the different ministries who have very, very large, influential music ministries in Christianity today, in American Christianity today, right? And all the names are coming to everybody's mind, and you have an issue with those and all of that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean that God's anointing one on those songs. And it doesn't mean that God can't use those songs to draw people closer to him.
Yeah, I met John Mark McMillan a few years ago. He wrote the How He Loves Us, which you probably don't know John Mark McMillan, but you know David Crowder, who made it even bigger and then took out the Sloppy Wet Kiss.
Okay. So here's the question. Did he write it Sloppy Wet Kiss, or did he write it Unforeseen?
John Mark McMillan wrote it Sloppy Wet Kiss.
No way.
He said, listen, and this is my quote from him. He told us when we're talking about songwriting, he said, I write songs for me.
Yeah.
And then hopefully other people can resonate, but I don't ever write a song for people. So that's why that line's in there.
I got you. Well, thank you, David Crowder, for changing it, because now I feel like I can sing it in church.
All right. So if you would have asked me this a week ago, my favorite worship song would have been "Goodness of God." I could have listened to that all day.
Oh yes.
But
and just, can I just tell you? Oh, okay. We'll have to do this one day. I love that. I love that song too. Is one of my favorites. But as an invitation, my daughter and I. This is a shameless, proud dad moment. My daughter has begun doing a piano only version of that song where she just sings over the piano, much like the CeCe Winans version, but we just very stripped down. And I'm telling you, oh my gosh, it does my heart so good to hear her sing that song. I just, all right, shameless dad plug over. We'll edit that out. That won't be in the podcast.
Well, that would have been my answer last week. My answer this week that I've stuck on is Red Rocks has a song called "The Lord Is With Me" that Chris Brown actually wrote. It is so good, and it's been on constant. Matter of fact, we were on the men's hike this weekend, and coming down the mountain to the parking lot, I had that song on repeat, just listening to it. It's so good because I needed to know the Lord was with me at that point after a 19-mile backpacking trip. All right. So here's the last question.
Okay. All right. We'll close with this.
Close with this one. This is going to be a little harder. I gave you a softball.
Here we go.
You get 3 bands for the rest of your life.
Oh my word!
You want me to go? Since I thought,
go for it.
I could have asked this. I could have answered this question even without thinking about the question. My top 3 are easy. 100% South Carolina born bred. Need to Breathe. Every album. Ready for the Long Surrender. No, hands down, no doubt. But I also get the solo albums. Switchfoot. But I want the John Foreman albums included in those because I think those are all the same. And then I would take all Judah and the Lion albums. Those would be my top 3. If you told me I can't listen to any more bands, Need to Breathe, Switchfoot, Judah and the Lion.
Okay. Top 3 for me. It's got to be. This is hard for me because
I know.
My love of music. I mean, I was always talking about somebody. Probably because they were the first Christian concert. Well, so is. Oh man.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. You're trying to go with the Newsboys?
No. So Newsboys was one of my first CDs that I bought. I bought 3. I bought 3 when my first trip to Lifeway after I got saved. I bought the Newsboys, Love Liberty Disco. And I bought 2 more. But they were the first Christian concert that I went to. One of my other favorite artists was on the bill as well. He was an opening act. He had just released his 2nd album. But it's got to be Third Day. And they're going back on tour. They're going back on tour. The Worship Experience, the Offerings album. The first one was just, man, that because it's raw.
Yeah.
It's just raw emotion, and I love that. I think music really, especially for me, is an expression of our emotions, and our emotions can be very raw, in positive ways and negative ways sometimes, but in a very, very positive way. Like Third Day feeds that for me. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of my favorites. So yeah. So
Third Day's been consistently good.
Yeah. And so I love Third Day. My second, okay, I'm holding my third close because I'm going to cheat a little bit. Okay.
Well, I did. I threw John Foreman in with Switchfoot. Those two.
I'm going to cheat a little more. But I'm going to leave that one for third. My second one, gosh, man, just because of his story, he was on that. He was the guy that I was talking about, was the opening act, and probably helped me to understand that because of his story, I gotta go with Lincoln Brewster. Man, Lincoln Brewster was so influential for me, and I know everybody kind of knows all the radio stuff, and he had a few hits here and there that made Christian radio, but everything that he's ever sung, it's just, everything has such an incredible story, and notwithstanding the fact he's just an amazing musician.
Yeah, he walked away from an unbelievable career to pursue worship and Christian music.
He was the guitar player throughout the mid '90s, early and mid '90s for Joe Perry. No, not Joe Perry. What's his name? The lead singer for Journey. It's gone.
Steve Perry.
Steve Perry. Thank you. Joe Perry was Aerosmith. He was a guitar player for Aerosmith. Okay. Let my secular side show. So Steve Perry, he was the guitar player for Steve Perry, which means that if you're at a Steve Perry show, 90% of the show or 80% of the show is going to be Journey stuff, which means that he had to mimic all of the stuff that Neil Schon had done for 20, 30 years. And he stood on that stage and did it flawlessly. He's an amazing musician. And I love him, and probably one of the more influential. Okay. Sorry, this has gone on much longer than it needs to, and here's my cheat. My third band is going to be the Stevens Family Band. Just because, not for any other reason. That's me and for those of you that don't know, it's me and my kids. Just because I have so much joy being able to worship and play music with my kids. And it is just, there will never be a joy that I have in ministry that will ever match getting the opportunity just on a random Sunday morning, just to stand up, whichever Sunday morning it was, just to stand on the stage and lead worship with my kids. And I know everybody doesn't have that experience, and some people do. And that's it. That's, of course, you're going to say your kids. You just don't understand what that does for a dad to turn around and see your kids using their talents for Jesus and loving Jesus, and then being able to stand there and do it with them is just something that is so amazing. And I always told parents, I said, listen, probably one of the greatest things that you can do is find out what your kids love to do and do it with them. Even if you don't like doing it, do it with them, and just watch the joy on their face when they see mom, dad, whoever, just being there with them and engaging in that thing that they love so much with them. It's remarkable. It will bless your heart more than anything on this planet. I promise you. So that's mine. Hey, our little, that's crazy. We thought we were going to get together and talk about these things for 15, 20 minutes, and it's been an hour. So maybe this isn't a halftime show. Maybe it's just a full-on bonus episode.
It's the full game.
That's right. I'm not going to go there. Okay. Have fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed some of these things. We certainly enjoyed sharing them with you. Robbie, thank you so much, as always, for being a part of this. Man, I appreciate you and Jeff. I know I say it all the time, but man, y'all are. I couldn't imagine all the years that we've been together. I couldn't imagine doing this without you guys, and y'all are just huge. I love it. Love getting to do this with y'all. God bless you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for next week, because we don't know what we're going to do, but hey, we're going to have fun doing it, and it'll be all three of us again. So we'll see you later.
See you.